distribution aimed at advanced penetration testing and security auditing. Kali contains several hundred tools which are geared towards various information security tasks, such as penetration testing, security research, computer forensics, and reverse engineering. Kali Linux is developed, funded, and maintained by Offensive Security, a leading information security training company. Now, we're going to use Kali as the attacker system. However, if you don't want to use Kali for whatever reason, you can download the tools that we use and install them to your host machine. So let's download it and install it as a virtual machine on our host system. I'm going to prepare Kali VM directly from the VMware image first. The first step is to download the VM files. Open the browser and simply Google the words Kali and download. The first website is the official site of Kali, so click on it. This is the download page of Kali. These are the ISO files. You can use them to install Kali as the main host or as a virtual machine in any virtualization platform. Now, these are the images that you can use to install. With the latest release, Kali Linux announced that the images have been restructured and simplified. So from now on, Kali Linux has new image styles: installer image, a live image, and a network installer image. Installer image is recommended for users who want to use Kali Linux on their system. No network connection is required. You can choose desktop environments such as XFCE, KDE, GNOME, and any other tools that you want to install during your installation. Now, the second one is a live image. So it's used to run Kali without installing it. And the last one is a network install image. The smallest image, of course, to download, containing only enough to install the base system that requires a network connection to install selected applications. At the bottom of the Kali image files table, there are ready-to-use, almost ready-to-use Kali virtual machines. So if you're going to use Kali as a virtual machine, you can use them instead of installing ISO files from scratch. I'm just going to use one of these images now, so I'll click on this link. So now we're in the virtual images page. Scroll down a bit, and here are the images. The VMware images are on this tab. The first link is a zipped archive. You have to extract it after the download. Let me show you what you'll have after you extract it. And you will have a VMware file. Here you can simply run the VMX file to run the VM. That's right, installation. The ISO file for Light Kali has been downloaded, and it's in the Downloads folder. Now I go to VMware Fusion Virtual Machine Library. From the upper left corner, click the Add button and select New. We're on the installation method selection window. So the big option, which is selected by default, is our option, install from disk or image. Now I can click Continue to move on. So now is the time to select the ISO file. We can't just drop the file if we drag it from over here. Here's the file browser. Select the ISO file, drag and drop it in the installation wizard, and click Continue. In the next step, we have to choose the operating system of the VM. Now we know that Kali is a Debian-based Linux distro, and we downloaded the 64-bit version, so choose Linux, then the 64-bit version of the latest Debian, and once again click Continue. You can select the firmware type of a virtual machine. Legacy BIOS is a standard BIOS firmware. UEFI is an interface between the operating system and the platform firmware. So if you do select UEFI, you have the option of enabling UEFI Secure Boot. And of course that secures the boot process. So now here I'm going to choose the Legacy BIOS option. So now we're on the last step of installation, and there's a summary here. The default values are 2 gigabytes of RAM, networking, etc. So when I click the Finish button, it asks for the location and the name of the VM file. I'm okay with the default. It's better to collect VMs in the same location, in my opinion. That way I stay organized, and I recommend you do too. And click Save. Now the VM boots for the very first time. In the boot menu, choose one of the Install or Graphical Install options. I'll show you what the Graphical Install looks like now. As you see, it's a typical operating system installation. We need to configure the OS now. So I'll select the language, location, and keyboard configuration. And now network configuration has been completed successfully. So I'll set the host name to Cali. And let's give it a domain name. I'll just choose the same name and continue. I'll set the username and password for the new user. Because Cali will not use a root account by default when it's started. Don't need any partitions. We're only installing Kali Lite as a virtual machine, so it can use the entire disk reserved for itself. Continue. Keep going with the default options for disk partitioning. Yes, write the changes to disks. Now the system is being installed. And just like before, it may take several minutes. So here Kali asks for the HTTP proxy information, but we're not going to need it now, so we can just leave it blank and continue. And in this section, you can choose the desktop environment that you want to use. Kali is no longer offering separate images for every desktop environment. There's just a single image for all of them. And it can be chosen during installation. So I will continue with the default option, XFCE. It's asking to install the grep bootloader to the master boot record. Now this is more meaningful when you install an operating system as a second one on the host. We're just installing a virtual machine, so it's the only operating system for it. So yes, install the grep bootloader to the master boot record. We have only one partition to install, grub, so I select that and continue. And installation is complete. So it's time to boot into our new system. Continue. We're finally at the login screen. Log in with username and password that you've set. Welcome to 64-bit Kali installed by the ISO file. So I want to turn it off for now. Now let's go to the folder that we chose for installation. order by date modified, and here is the Kali Lite VM file.